In this video, I'm going to try to introduce you to hatching and cross-hatching. So I've sketched out a few little bottles here, and they're just serviceable stand-ins here for objects that you might find in your still life. And the thing about hatching and cross-hatching is that this is hatching, and this is cross-hatching. So you go crisscross. And the original hatching and cross-hatching originated from intaglio prints, where the person could etch onto lines into a plate using acid, and the ink would just be one solid black ink that you laid on the plate. So when you ran it through the press, the ink didn't change color. The only thing that the artist could do in order to generate areas of light and areas of dark was to control how much of the paper shone through. So the more that you crisscross, the darker it is. And that got kind of mushy. So I'm going to erase it and just do a little demo here. So there's hatching, cross-hatching, and then you could go in a different direction. And as you can see, the more paper shines through, the lighter; the less paper shines through, the darker it is. Now, in this class, you have also learned about cross contour lines, lines that go across an object. And you have learned about line quality, which is when the line actually changes in its degree of darkness and lightness as it travels around the object. So, since we're using pencils and not ink, you can actually control the areas of light and dark by controlling the pressure on your drawing instrument, in addition to controlling how much of the white paper shines through. So first I'm going to add hatching and cross-hatching to these objects in the traditional manner. And I'm going to introduce you to another concept, which is drawing the air and the object at the same time. So I'm just going to literally say that there is a base value, and it is a value that exists on both the object and the space behind it. But then this happens to be a really dark object, so I'm going to darken it. And as I darken it, it is now different from the space around it. Now, this particular object is going to be lighter near the center, and it's going to be darker. Let's see, I'm just going to add an area of darkness right here, a little stripe of darkness. And I might be going a little bit too quickly as I draw, but we'll see. And I'm going to darken the left side of it as well. So you can see that my line right now, it doesn't have any changes in value to it. So there's really no quality to this line. It's just straight up. And the more that I want to darken it, the more times that I have to crisscross and literally bury the paper. And if I was drawing more slowly, my lines would probably be more regular, and it might be a nicer drawing, but oh well. So don't do what I'm doing. You draw more slowly than me. And what I did on this side is I actually put the lines closer together than over here. So even though I only hatched once without cross hatching, it's still a little bit darker than that. And you can see that this is much, much lighter than that. Now, if I wanted to add a little bit more sensitivity to my line, you know, one thing we can do is what's called bracelet modeling, which is when lines follow the rounded surface of the object that we are describing. So I am not just hatching, I am also adding a little bit of curvature. And I'm going to do that over here. And now I am starting to control the pressure on my drawing instrument so that you can see that the line, instead of being solid, is actually feathered. So it starts solid and then it gets lighter and becomes kind of dagger-like. So this line here is very different from the lines down here. And it actually, I think, makes it more beautiful hatching and cross-hatching. It's more delicate. So I can lead the eye of the observer over the surface of the object by adding what we have learned as cross-contour line, and which in the world of hatching and cross-hatching is known as bracelet modeling. So if I wanted to do it here, I could just go like this. Would be wider curves because it's a wider object. And you know, I'm going to add a few places here where I'm describing the space as well. And then when you're describing space any time at all, I always think that it should shimmer, just as line quality adds shimmer to a line so that it appears to be darker and lighter and darker. Air should also be lighter and darker and lighter. So when I describe air, I describe it in patches. And I make sure that my hatched lines continuously change direction, so that, and maybe also the amount of space between them, that also, like I say, the more space there is between the lines, the more the paper shines through. But if you describe the air between the objects, using a series of hatched and cross-hatched lines that are not constant, but that are created in little patches, you will actually create air that shimmers. So that's one way of creating an area of value that shimmers, in addition to being able to create a line that shimmers. So let's go for it. Give it a try.